Well, I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Roofing Mastermind podcast. And here on today's episode, I have a surprise guest that you guys might be surprised is actually getting on a podcast. So I'm going to make an introduction to a good friend of mine. He owns a company, a roofing company here in Lakewood, Colorado. We do a lot of business with his company. They install roofs for us. They do a lot of cash jobs, everything from insurance restoration to cash jobs to, basic repairs. So today on the episode, I have Al Lamp from Maxx Roof that is here. And welcome, Al.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Can't believe I'm here.
Yeah, I really wanted to get you on the episode primarily because you have a different outlook on the way we're doing roofing this last year. The way the insurance restoration roofing is kind of going, and I really wanted to kind of dive into that. Could you maybe tell me a little bit about what you're doing now that's different than other storm restoration contractors and where that idea came from?
Well, I think it starts with probably where did the idea come from? Because I don't think it's any secret in our industry that things are changing. The goalposts are moving. Insurance companies are doing different things, and they always have. It's just that now they're doing what I consider to be blowback on us. And the reason for that is I think a lot of the problem in our industry, and I dealt with it myself, we're watching the deductibles get higher. We're watching policy languages change that are less favorable, right? And that's a challenge for us.
Well, I want to interject just real fast because not just less favorable like for the roofing contractor, less favorable for the policy holder,
yeah, absolutely,
the homeowner.
Absolutely.
The human on the other end that has no clue that these changes are affecting their ability to get their home repaired properly.
Well, and you bring my point home because that's our fault. Okay? That's how I see this. You've been doing this long enough. You've seen the changes yourself with supplementing.
Yeah.
Public adjusters coming out of the woodwork. When I got into this business, public adjusters only worked with commercial.
Huge jobs.
Yeah. And then somebody got an idea to start doing some residential. And then the conferences really started to blow up. So, all of this stuff hasn't been around that long. And as those things came about, then the supplementing companies came out of the woodwork. And everybody was learning how to do Xactimate, and everybody was getting proficient at it. And everybody learned the tricks on how to RFG versus DMO and all of those things that pumped up these claims. So what happened is we got too good. We got too good at what we do. We increased the cost of the claims so much that you throw in the fact that there's more claims now because obviously we're having more storm events. I mean, things are moving and shaking in the atmosphere, and we can't deny that. So, here we have the insurance carriers are looking at this going, okay, we're watching this happen, and now we got to do some mitigation. They're a business, just like us. They're going to mitigate their losses. That's why it's called a loss, right?
Right.
So, in seeing all these change, as we have been doing what we think and what we tell homeowners is, oh, we're going to get you all the money you're owed, right? Except you're going to give it all to me, right? Oh, plus your deductible. So I need all that to do the quality repairs for your house. This is what almost all of us in this industry have been taught.
Hold on now. So what you're really about to say and what you're coming to fruition on is very controversial for our industry.
Absolutely.
I mean, when I came into the industry, what I was taught, what I was told, the way I was told to present this to the average everyday homeowner, you're about to shatter everything that I was told is real. So I just wanted to make you guys aware. You can.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the truth. We've all been told and trained in this sauce that, oh, well, you have to increase it. You have to supplement it. You have to get as much as possible. And then we're giving ourselves the high fives and all of that kind of thing. And the lie of it all is that we're doing it for the homeowner. We're not. We're doing it for us to pad our profits. Every contractor knows what their cash price would be if insurance didn't exist. You know your materials, you know your labor, and you know how much you need in profit margin for your particular business and
And
your overhead.
let me stop you right there. Let me ask, what would you say? And I mean, my belief is, and I know they say 50%, if it's not
Yeah.
at least 50%, I can't, make a profit. My belief is if you're at 35% profit margin, your business has the ability to grow and scale.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pry or get into your personal financials, but you guys bid the jobs no different than they have to do in Florida, but you do it everywhere, right?
Right.
Now, did that idea come from the last time you were in Florida a couple of
No,
years ago?
no, it actually didn't. I don't know what even caused this epiphany, but one day I realized, we've got to do something different. And all the guys like to say, "Oh, well, you're just going to be a chuck in a truck then, and you're just going to throw out low bids and things like that." That's not true. The thing of it is, we can give a cash estimate figuring at the percentage that we need, and all of my jobs by the time I net after commissions come almost spot on about 30%. Okay, that's plenty. That's plenty for me.
Right.
If I did them under insurance fully, sure, could probably double that or more sometimes, right? So the thing is, I decided that, you know what, I need to investigate a couple of things
Okay.
about what we've all been taught.
Okay.
And one of those things was we've been taught you can't profit from your insurance claim.
hmm
You ever heard that?
I've heard that many times.
You know what? There's not a single law, there's not a single precedence, there is nothing that states that
Really.
anywhere. I talked to attorneys, I talked to PAs before I
Do
got
you
into this because
think?
I needed to know.
Hold on. I want to ask you this now. Do you think that that has been said because of the recoverable depreciation on a
Absolutely.
job? So if like you can't profit from it. So the way that I was taught and the way that I present this is if you had an auto accident as an example, right? If you had an auto accident, your vehicle is only an ACV policy. It's an actual cash value policy. Once I drove it off of the lot, it was never worth what it was worth. They're going to pay me the remaining, life of it, and that's it. Okay, and we all know actual cash value ACV, and so there is no recoverable depreciation to get on the auto accident. If the car's totaled, it's
Hmm.
totaled. With the recoverable depreciation, if the insurance company is, we'll just call it a $15,000 job. We'll make it square. Okay. $15,000 job. The roof's about 7 years old. Insurance sent out, the ACV is 10,000 least deductible. We'll just call it 1,000 deductible for old time's sake. Right. And I think what we're told is obviously if I bill you the final amount, they're not going to release the recoverable depreciation, the RCV.
If you bill who?
If I bill the homeowner.
Okay, well, that's wrong. So everybody in this industry bills the final invoice
To the
to the insurance
insurance
carrier.
provider.
Guess what? Why? They don't owe you the money. The homeowner does. Your contract's with them. Insurance company, the only reason that they want to see that is for opportunity to make sure that everything's been done, according to, because you can't even send in just a lump sum. They want you to line everything up and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
But you know what? Here's the reality. They agreed to indemnify that homeowner for X amount of dollars.
Right.
Okay. And as long as they got that work done, sorry, my headset's falling off. As long as they get that work done, that's the important part. Because here's an example. And the word profiting off the insurance, it's not really true. They agreed, they adjusted the damages, and they agreed that this is how much that should cost. And what does every law say? If it costs more, have your contractor send in, for the extra amount. Well, I'm a roofer, so what if I buy the materials myself and I get a discount from the supplier over the general public, and I go up there and physically pound those damn nails myself, put on my roof? Am I entitled to the full amount of the claim?
Why wouldn't you be?
Exactly. The work gets done regardless of how much time or money that I spent. They don't ask for an invoice from me. So, and the truth of the matter is, you profit off of every claim anyway as a homeowner because you go from an old roof to a new roof, and
Okay.
and now you have a fully warranted system, and you have an increase in value of the home and everything. You profit, okay, for whatever your deductible was. So it's a fallacy. It's not true. Now, do we want to just go around leaving money on the table? Of course not. You know, I'm not going out there putting out the cheapest bid that can be. I have my number.
Well, here's a good question, okay? And I'm just going to use like Aurora as an example
Yeah.
because I don't even know that Denver's updated to ice and water for code.
No.
So I don't think they have. So I'm going to use Aurora as an example. I have a property in Aurora right now. Organic, 3-tab. Actually, just before we came, I said, oh, yeah, let's get the supplement for the space decking.
Mhm.
Okay. It's organic. It's 3-tab. It was bought off wind damage, hail. It was hail and wind, but bought off wind damage. The gutters were bought off hail, and it has space decking. It has no ice and water. It has multiple layers. You know, it's an old 60s home,
Right.
and so. When they're saying to you, the insurance provider saying, if you procure any other cost, have your roofer, give you the bill for that, and we will supplement that, or we will, cover that cost. Well, it's not the right thing to do to build a roof that's not to code,
Right.
right? Obviously, it's old slat decking, you're very familiar with it, right? Obviously, if we were to install that roof and we were to have nails, they're going to go through, the spaces that's not going to be sealed down to the nailable surface, then that's an injustice to the homeowner. And we do need paid for it. So I don't want to ask the homeowner to cover
Oh, of course
the
not.
decking,
Of course
right?
not.
So at what point do you draw the line between proper supplementing and, supplementing for code?
No, that's an excellent question because the first part of what I'm talking about is the typical scope that comes in for, I think in Denver, because I've done on the exactments to kind of see where they fall. I think around 725 a square, something like that.
Okay.
And if they're paying that, it more than covers what I need.
Okay.
In the situation you're talking about, of course, there's changes that'll have to happen, and we help because the main thing I care about the scope is just to make sure that they got enough to pay for their roof. If they didn't in those situations or there's code items like that, of course we help them, but I don't do it with the insurance. I provide the information to the homeowner to give to their adjuster to get that approved. And they're all on the up and up on the code items and things like that. So as long as they have code coverage, they'll get paid for it. And I can add it to my invoice that I'll be giving to the homeowner later.
For cost and cure.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is essentially like, I'm big on if there's damage, come down, get the contract, help the homeowner file the claim, meet the adjuster, get the, help them get the coverage that they deserve, right? I'm big on that. What you're telling me is that you have pretty much removed yourself from the entire insurance process other than a little bit of education to the homeowner in regards to this is what probably needs said or this is what you need to show them, and you're not acting basically as a PA without
Right.
using policy language, right? I mean, that's the fine line we draw, right? We don't use words like indemnify and don't,
Or
speak-
negotiation or representation or any of that
Exactly.
stuff that a lot of roofers put right on their websites or their what do you call it, contingency agreements and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
No, I turn every deal into a cash deal. That's correct. I only deal with the homeowner. I don't go to adjuster meetings. Nowadays, I think everybody can understand
It's
that's
not
become
an
a waste
adjuster.
of time.
It's not an
It's
adjuster.
not even an adjuster. It's like, I'm not going to waste my time there.
Right.
That's stupid. We just want to see what they're offering. Now, the beauty of knowing what I'm doing is when I need to pull that tool out and help that homeowner with something on the claim part. You made the comment, help them make sure they get everything they're owed. Well, to an extent, and again, you're doing UPPA violations there by saying that. You can't talk about what their coverage is with them, but we know what they should have. So, of course, we can look at their scope with an educated eye and understand if there's something missing. And then my favorite words to tell the homeowner is, I can tell you how to get that money. Okay. If anything's short, I can tell you how to get that money. And if you got any time a homeowner that doesn't want to show you that scope, they want to see your number first, that's the key phrase to use is like, well, I can compare notes with what they've got and whatever they don't, I'll tell you how to get that money. Boom. Yeah. Take a look because you changed it all up. But yeah, I turn everything into a cash situation because it's not our job. We're contractors. We need to be contractors. I come to look at what your damage is. I come up with my estimate.
Right.
I give you my price. I contract you, and then you pay me.
Right.
That's it.
I like that you say that too. And the reason why is, the name of your company is Maxx Roof.
Right.
Right. And I've talked with you about, I think I had some jobs in Ray or,
Right.
way out Yuma,
Yeah.
whatever it was, early season storm jobs. I had a couple of them. They didn't have any coverage on their homes. We cash bid them. And I said, well, they got some windows and stuff. You said, well, Eli, we're Maxx Roof.
Yeah. Not Maxx Roof and exteriors, interiors, and everything else.
Right.
Right.
And so really, and I really built my company on certain principles and like keeping it simple, right? As an example, for me, I do brokering of roofing projects to local companies. You guys are one of those companies. You guys are on my website as a preferred vendor. Sure, somebody could get on the website and just click on your link. It takes them straight to your website. They could go through you. The promise that I give to the homeowner is that with me, you get two contractors. So if they're busy, they're not answering the phone, you need details, I'm available throughout that entire process, right? And I try to keep it real simple. Like I was in roofing sales for a long time. I did project managing for a long time. I'm very familiar with the process from initial inspection to close, or even appointment coordination to close. However, I'm not a production manager. Right. I don't know anything about the back end of that. I've never dealt with I'm familiar with a few people at the supply houses because I needed to pick up some drip edge or a roll of ice and water or some synthetic or whatever the case might be, some shingle samples, whatever. But when I designed my company, people say, well, why did you just like sell roofs to other companies? Why wouldn't you build them? You'd make 5 times as much. I said, well, that's fine and dandy, but I number one, don't have the liability of building the roof. Number two, I'm not waiting on those checks, similar to you're talking about. And number three, I know nothing about the production side, so I brought to the marketplace what I'm best at doing.
Sure.
Which is simply providing quality service, selling roofing systems, and then placing people with the best fit company for their individual needs.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about the money. So how do you get out of not waiting for those checks? Because we're still talking with, the repairs are funded by the insurance ultimately.
Okay.
And I know there's going to be guys out there saying, well, what about the deductible? What about you got to collect the deductible? We got to collect the deductible. Okay. If I'm talking to them about their insurance and I'm getting as deep as we used to do, as I used to do, then absolutely you kind of shoehorn yourself into that. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I do a contract, it's 50-50. You pay me 50% now and you pay me 50% when it's done.
Right.
And, well, they might not have that other 50% till they get their check, right? So to get away from that, I offered financing. I go through a company that they can easily, quickly qualify for short term. It's 6 months, no payments, no interest, no fees, no nothing. I pay, the fee on it.
Right.
But what it does,
the fee you pay? Just curious.
3.5% to 5%, depending on if they take 6 or 12 months or whatever it is. But the key is that I'm telling them, look, we're going to help you get the funds put up front for you to get your repairs on my estimate. Right. And we have that money fronted to you. You're able to use that without any costs, any fees, any interest, nothing, for 6 months while you get your check from your carrier and you send it to the mortgage and you sit and play around with what they need. And then that comes back and then we get done with the work and then comes the next check and then you got to do the same thing again. Well, I'm the one that's typically waiting for that. And you and I both know that final check is where the profit's at.
Right.
There's too many guys that get in trouble because they think that their money's in the first check and it's not.
Right.
And that's why they go under. But
Well, let me ask you, what has creating that shift in the business model? Because really what you did was you disrupted the norm,
yeah,
right? And you created something, and it seems to be working for you, at least from outward
yeah,
appearances, right? I mean, it worked enough for you guys to have 2 turkeys when I came over for Friendsgiving. Your Thanksgiving, my
I'm
Friendsgiving.
not waiting on cash.
So what has that done for your cash flow, though?
Oh, it's everything. Instead of going like this, instead of me biting my nails, and like so many guys in this industry are always betting on the come. Okay, I had to use some of this ACV money, to pay bills or whatever, and I got to get some more deals in to cover that. That happens all the time. I got out of that rut.
Okay.
And now so if I get them set on the financing and contract it, heck, I'm putting on that roof in a week, right, or less, or whatever. I can in some cases tell them 3 days. That roof's on, and then that gives them all their final documents that they need. And what we have them send to the insurance company is a certificate of completion and the completion photos. Okay.
Okay.
Given my secrets. But I think as an industry, we need to start doing things this way if we're going to really help, because everything we've been doing is hurting our clients that we say we're helping. Right. And by doing it that way, we're paid much quicker. Commissions are paid faster for the salespeople, and I don't have those cash flow. I get paid immediately. I'm done right after it's done. So,
what has
and I
that
don't have to
done?
discuss deductible.
What has that done for retention of sales reps? Now, I know you've struggled
Finding them
sales
is the
reps.
problem. Finding people to work, and that's a whole nother discussion about changing to W-2. You and I have kind of discussed that.
Well, at the roofing broker, and when I say at the roofing broker, I'm actually talking about my office, and you just walk through here. It's a bunch of appointment coordinators. Last year, I made the decision, even myself, I made the decision I'm going to pay myself W-2 as a salary. I'm going to I own an S corporation, and the S corporation owns an LLC, which is the Roofing Broker LLC. And I have to pay myself payroll and payroll tax with an S corporation.
Right.
I know a lot of people, 1099 and whatever. No. I have to pay myself. And so the tax liability flows through the LLC into the S corporation, and in turn makes the owner of the S corporation responsible for the tax liability. So if they're taking out $600-700 weekly from me on taxes, that is limiting my tax liability, at the end of the year.
Of course.
And so we made the shift. So everyone's W-2 that works for the roofing broker. And next year, the goal, 10 sales reps, all W-2 with a base salary with high commission stakes on them.
Mm-hmm.
But their taxes will come out of those high commissions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of companies are starting to go to the W-2 and such. Myself, I'm not there yet. I struggle with that. But trying to find people to come in on 1099 is increasingly impossible. Now, as far as retention, yeah, my guys are still with me. They've been with me for a long time. I mean, they're not going anywhere. They get paid so fast,
right? So what's a typical? We'll just say, and I know I'm just actually asking for the other people watching. I've sold jobs to you, so I'm very familiar. But what would the typical? I signed the contract today. We're talking real contract, not contingency.
Right.
I met with wife and husband tomorrow afternoon. They got approved for the financing, the bridge financing.
They'll know their financing at the time of the contract signing.
Okay. So we know that, they're approved. I come back to the office in Lakewood. I say, hey, here's the contract. Here's the approved financing. One, what you talked about your build timeline, but as a rep, how long am I waiting to get my paycheck?
Well, let's talk about the current system. People get paid on what they bring in, right?
Right.
So whenever those checks finally get in is when they finally get paid, is usually how that works. Number one, they don't have to bring a contract in because we do every single contract by DocuSign.
Okay.
Every single one. So we don't even have to have that physical contract type of deal. Doesn't mean that they don't meet with the homeowner. And I mean, many times if they're going to a closing like that, and we know it's going to be a close,
right.
I'm even there where I can live do the DocuSign on the spot, send it to them, and it's all handled right there. Right?
Okay.
It works pretty slick, and people love it. That's the crazy thing. The financing link is determined at that point as well. They know within seconds, soft credit pull and all of that. I get notified of the approval, and then I can go ahead and immediately submit to the payment center for my 50% request.
Okay.
They get a little thing on their phone that they have to approve it, but they do that, and boom, it's ACH into my account tomorrow.
Really? Okay.
That's done. So once that comes in the next day, boom, I'm paying my salespeople right away on the first check.
Okay. So
then the 3 days or 4 days or a week.
Are you giving them 50% of their total commission?
Yeah, I'm paying them their 10% of the money that comes in, which is 50% of the overall deal.
Okay.
And then we do the build. As soon as we're done with the build, my office manager does all of their final documents, emails it out to them, gives them the instructions and what to send to their insurance and all of that. And I submit for the second payment. They approve, we're done. I get my money the next day, salesman's paid. It's the fastest in the industry.
So you're cutting out the waiting on the paper checks. You're cutting out the mortgage companies and going through that. Obviously, if somebody's like, well, I need to pay off my loan and I have this check with my mortgage company, what do I do? I'm sure you help them and tell them, hey, this is the process. You're going to want to mail that into them and show them that you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, we tell them, and that's the thing. That's where the having the experience comes in. We can educate people still on what's going to happen. You're going to get this check. It's going to have your mortgage on there. You're going to send it to them. Here, why don't you call them up and find out where you need to send the check and this and that. A lot of times they have some forms they even want us to fill out. And if that's the case, it'll come in email. It's all very simple. It's just education. It's not a big deal. But the thing is, we're not under the gun. We're not trying to hurry up and get this so we can get paid. We're already being paid.
Right.
Now we're just doing that extra service for them. And again, the people just love this process because they don't have to wait to get their roof done. I don't have to talk to them about deductibles and all of that kind of stuff because when they pay me with a check or they do the financing, either way, it doesn't matter. However that shakes out, I don't have to tell anybody how much of this check is from their own pocket and how much came from insurance proceeds. I don't have to do that. I have my contract with the homeowner, my invoice with the homeowner.
Okay, so let me ask you in regards to that. I hear everything you're saying. I'm soaking it in, right? I think it's a different idea for sure, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, especially you are a business. It's helping sustain business. Your core belief behind it appears to be from a genuine place of not continually causing harm to the industry as a whole. Sure, you're a small piece of that, but all I can do to change the world today is what I can do to change the world. But what about, so if the insurance company, we'll just say I'm the homeowner, okay? And insurance says $28,000 for roof and gutters, and Maxx Roof, even though they're not Maxx Roof and Gutters, does roof and gutters. Then you come in and you bid me $20,000. I'm just square number, okay? And the job's completed. Me as the homeowner, am I going to receive least my deductible, that $8,000?
Yeah, so this has happened every single time that we've done it. And I think part of it is because insurance companies are so thrilled not to get supplemented and all of that kind of thing. But number one, it all starts with, doesn't a roof cost what it costs?
Okay.
Why is it cost different if it's with insurance as opposed to the person paying for it out of their own pocket?
Well,
shouldn't.
I know retail companies that actually charge more than what insurance charges.
I hear that a lot.
$1,800 a square for
I hear that a lot.
Just crazy
and
stuff.
I don't, I need to see more about is that's really true because insurance is paying so much higher than what we really need. I don't believe that. I mean, I think in some cases, if it's only because the insurance isn't paying what it's supposed to be, those kinds of things. But for the most part, retail is going to probably, and let's just say in this market, okay, to do a roof, it should cost what it costs. And that's what we tell homeowners. It shouldn't matter who's doing it. And I've had people hit me up on Facebook and say, well, it has to cost more because we're doing all this stuff going back and forth with adjusters on supplementing And there's a cost to that.
But you're actually not going back and forth with the
No,
adjuster anymore.
no.
Right? The
I don't talk
homeowner's
to
doing
them.
that. The homeowner essentially is suddenly acting as their own GC.
It's their insurance. It's not mine.
Right, but they're acting as their own GC. They're getting the contract
Kind
from
of,
you
yeah.
to do a portion of the job. Then you don't really do siding and stuff, so now they're contacting
If
a
there's
siding
more
company.
items, yeah, sure. They're
Right.
going to be handling their own thing. But of course, we refer our vendors that we refer to for those different things. I don't get any piece of
So
that.
do they get the
And let's
O&P?
face it, O&P, who gets it?
I get it all the time.
No, you don't.
I promise you, I'll show you scope after scope in my filing cabinet. I will call Jeremy from Ridgeline, also on my website, and he will say,
Then I'm
"How
going to
do you-"
have you do every one of my insurance deals that I do because we still do some.
No.
Because
I
you don't
get
get
the
it.
O&P on the adjuster walk almost every time that it's qualified.
Then you need to teach me something because I'm telling you, it isn't happening anymore. They're not paying it. They don't want to pay it. And the argument is so stupid because it's their own made up rules. 3 trades. Don't say that anywhere. That's internal. Doesn't say that anywhere. I've sent in everything from the fact that here's my license as an actual residential general contractor, handling this. Send the homeowner the policy language that states how O&P is determined and things like that. And I'm telling you, we'll have that conversation another day because my opinion, it doesn't happen. And everybody that I talk to, it's becoming more and more and more. It's just gone. It's one of the things they're tightening on because they're battling these supplements, these over supplementing and such.
Do you think that if there was less supplementing for porta potties that don't exist, as an example, if there was less supplementing, that the O&P probably would be more available?
I would think so. I think it's a matter of the fact that we've been playing too many games and pumping things up too much. And to go back to answering your actual question about what about the other 8,000, right?
Right.
So again, they agreed to indemnify them for that amount of money for those repairs. We give them their final documents. They send the completion photos and they send the COC. And even the copy of the permit that is finalized. Okay. Now, if I have that available at that time, then they send it off to the insurance. Now there's no dispute. The roof's done.
Right.
So they owe them the money.
Right.
End of story.
Because that's the settlement that they agreed to.
Yes. And so I haven't had them balk at it. USAA did one time, and the homeowner said, yeah, they're asking for a detailed, estimate from you, or not estimate, but invoice from you and such. And I said, well, it's none of their business what you paid for it. Have them show you in the policy where it says that you have to provide that. Some might. Some policies might actually say you have to provide an invoice, but usually it's one of these things, right?
Right.
And the whole point is to prove you did the work and you're not pocketing the money. But you know what? There's nothing they can do about you pocketing the money. So yes, they are able to get that money. And is that money that sometimes hurts when I see it's $8,000 that could have gone to me?
Right.
Hell yeah. I've had that a couple of times where I'm like, God, but I live and die by this sword.
Okay.
I leave money on the table, absolutely.
Okay, so next deal is...
But it's between them and their insurance.
You said a roof costs what it costs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say from 212 to 612. That's typically 712 is when we start adding steep and, all these things. Yeah. Standard hip roof, ranch style, we got 1 million of them in Colorado. Of course, we got 1 million 2 and 3 stories too with steep roofs. But what is your estimate per square on an average job?
575 to 600.
Okay, 575 to 600. You're coming in. You're putting on
I'm putting on
shingle.
IKO Dynasty Class 3 IR.
Okay.
As just the standard. If they want to upgrade.
And is it an IR?
It is.
The Dynasty Class 3?
It is. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
It's an actual. It says right on the packaging. And yeah, they got that designation. I think, was it earlier this year or last year? But it is an official IR.
Okay. I mean, I've put on a lot of IKO Dynasty at a couple of companies.
It wasn't always, but it is now. And a lot of Class 3s aren't IR, but this one is. So that's our standard. And yeah, that does qualify for some discounts for some companies. I think State Farm gives 3 or 4. They'll give it. Not all companies do, but they can upgrade it to Nordic. But, true, we'll put on whatever they want. If they want OC, they're just bent on it, of course we're going to give them what they want. All of these shingles, I mean, the IKO's got a good price point for me. I've been using them for years. I really like them. But they're all, it's not going to affect my number that much. And everything's fairly static, for the most part of what I've got. So, it's not that difficult. And we all know what our costs are. I mean, a lot of companies are getting much better rates than I am from the suppliers, so they could profit even more at that same number than me, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They want to go after and chase the bigger money, get it later, but it starves out salespeople sometimes, and they
Right.
don't care because I'm the owner and I'm going to be here when it does finally come,
Right.
And, to
Well,
me, late money's less money.
it's actually the whole fill the pipeline, fill the pipeline, fill the pipeline theory, right?
Like
It's
public
like
adjusters.
I'm never actually getting, I'm not never. I mean, if I'm here and I'm a long-term roofing sales, guy. So I've been in the industry for a long time. So trust me, I've seen many, many final checks. But I have been at companies that it was like fill the pipeline, fill the pipeline, fill the pipeline. And then it's like you're getting paid your commission on all these ACV checks. And the whole time, and there's many companies, and I won't say all of them, but a guy named Todd owned one. I'll just throw that out there. Anyways, guy named Colton owned another one. I won't say what companies, but if you ever see my comments on any of their posts, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And it's like they are literally waiting until the moment they can push you out of the company
Yeah.
and keep those jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Puppy
And
milling
so
is what I call it.
puppy milling. I call it, or my favorite one is they draw you out, they draw you out, they draw you out. Well, they got you 15, 20 grand in debt while you're waiting on this money, and they have you in what I call the golden handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got to keep selling so I can pay them back. There's actually a biblical term that says the borrower is slave to the lender, right? And I have been slave in many companies over and over. When I was building the roofing broker, I literally did things. You were one of the people. I got a friend named Devin in Dallas that was one of the people. And if I was struggling financially, and I was, I mean, I built a company from $13.80. So you can imagine, and you just walk through the office. I don't need you to testify to it, but I mean, long way from that in just under 4 years. I would just borrow $300-$400 from roofing company and roofing sales guys. Hey, can I borrow a couple bucks and just pay it back as soon as possible? And in turn, for those people that like helped me along the way, I give away. I mean, I've probably given you a half a dozen repair jobs or whatever, but I don't ask for anything on
I've got
those.
some full roofs from you.
Yeah, I got some full roofs. I mean, I'm not a stingy, individual. To me, and my company's mission statement, pose a threat to no one, help as many people as you can, and make a lot of friends along the way. So for me personally, I'm a firm believer in when I see a roof, it's not cha-ching, cha-ching, money bags, I'm cashing a check. It's who can I help that's inside of that property. And that's really the foundation of what I've built. So as an example, a job you did, I went out, guy was trying to sell his property, Cherry Creek area or Wash Park area, can't remember. And I get there and it's like, house is under contract. They have a few weeks to get it done. And I say, hey, there is a little bit of hail damage here. By no means do I think it'll get covered by insurance. The solar installers drug the solar across the ridge cap. Your ridge cap is shot out. It's very problematic. Your roof's only about 8 years old, 7 years old. I think if you replace the ridge cap, you'd be in good shape.
Yeah, I remember that one.
We called the claimant anyways. He said, well, let's try it. Got shot down. And I just called you and I said, hey, how much? I think you said 16, 17, 1,800 bucks, whatever, full ridge replacement. And I just gave it to you. But in turn, that homeowner, and I didn't ask him for this, wrote me a 5-star review. His realtor wrote me a 5-star review. The realtors called me on 3 other jobs, only one of which has turned into,
Right.
Anything. But I didn't need to make that right there in that moment. You were available. You were willing. You had the crew. Let's just help them out. Let's get it done. And that's just kind of.
I wish that was more how the industry is. I mean, when we're looking for people as owners, everybody wants the young killer to go out there and does see dollar signs everywhere. Heck, I even tell new people that everywhere you look, dollar signs, right? Because we want them to have that mentality to keep them motivated to go out there and go after it. I think it's after you've been in the business for a while and you realize that you're helping people and doing this changeover that we've done in the last 2 seasons. not only, helped my cash flow and our business in its ways, but the homeowners never been happier.
Really.
And now we really realize this is something that makes their life actually much easier. You'd think, well, I'm dumping them into handling their own insurance. Well, if we're not going overboard supplementing and everything, there's not that negotiation going on back and forth and all that stuff. It becomes a fairly simple process for the homeowner for the most part. And it is their insurance, so they should have to handle their own stuff. We're just, like I say, go back to the roles of being a contractor. But then as you mature in this industry, you start to get to understand how you're helping people. If you don't get to that point, I think you're following the wrong rabbit hole that is hurting our industry, and then why we're pumping up claims so much, and we're just going after all the big money all the time, and you don't even care about what's going on the other side. Take Florida, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, good Lord. I mean, the deductibles down there, no insurance.
Can't get covered because they were dropped by previous providers.
And guys are still trying to, get $1,200 a square on friggin' shingles,
right?
And high-fiving themselves and everything. And it's like, what are you doing? And that's more money coming out of the homeowner's pocket than it ever has before. So, things have to change. This industry's changing. If you don't start figuring out how to do a retail model, if you don't start understanding how much a roof should cost, because I'll tell you, you're going to get left on the wayside because things are coming to massive change here soon.
Yeah.
And I'm talking within the next year or two. We're already seeing this shift happening, and it's not just the managed repair programs and the preferred programs, but there's other things that carriers are doing to basically fight back, And what did we expect, right? What did we expect? This isn't an ATM machine, and we have to be responsible on our part to dial back the greed a little bit and start being contractors again and just focusing on what needs to be done, the work and the price to do that. And I can tell you, for years in this industry, as a salesperson even and such, I couldn't do an estimate out in the field. I have no idea what to charge.
It's funny you say
How
that.
stupid.
I was just talking. I have a cash job up in Pine. A realtor reached out, and I was gonna actually reach out to you. I didn't know if you were going back to Sarasota. I didn't know what was going on, but I reached out to Colorado Exteriors. They also do a lot of cash jobs for me. They come in, the pricing's right. They're 2.5 weeks out, always, all the time. Have several crews. And I said to Dan from Colorado Exteriors, I said, it's funny because nowadays, I said, this is at 7,000 feet. And if you're not in a mountain town, you don't know, satellites actually don't always pick up the mountain homes because a lot of the towns are tourist places. And so they are deliberately not able to capture stuff in those towns. Like there's laws or some crazy stuff. So I said, imagine getting a call, and I have no idea, and I'm not saying me, I'm talking about, I don't know how to draw a roof, right? I don't know how to bid a job per square. I don't know what the pitch of the roof is unless an adjuster comes out with a pitch gauge, right? I mean, I can eyeball a pitch of a roof. I'm actually really good. It's kind of like, I call it my superpower. I'll pull up to a home and I'll say, hey, well, what's the approximate age of the roof? Or we also say that when we're doing appointments over the phone, what's the approximate age of the roof? But when I get there, they'll say, oh, I'm not sure. And then I'll say, it looks about 17 years old. And then they'll be like, actually, it's exactly 17 years old. How do you know that? And I'm like, I have no idea. The ones that are harder for me are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes 5 is kind of easy too. 5, it's like a turning point in the granulation and just certain things, like kind of start turning the brittleness of the shingles. But yeah, man, just imagine being a roofing contractor or a said roofing contractor, or as so many people like to say, a roofer, right? I can't draw a roof. I can't bid a job without Xactimate. It's kind of
you have
almost,
to rely on somebody else to come up with the number.
Yeah, it's almost embarrassing.
It is, and that's one of the things that kind of struck me is now all my sales guys know exactly what they can show, if they even to give a number off the cuff, they can use one-click estimate in the field if you've ever used that
I've heard
little
of it.
thing.
Yeah.
And you can at least get a close enough that you can tell somebody pretty accurately about what it's going to cost based on what we charge per square. I'm probably more transparent than that than a lot of companies are with the salespeople and such, but it is what it is, and it helps them to really understand our business better.
Right. Well, Al, I really truly appreciate you coming out. I know there's a stigma around you with podcasts and
Damn
different
you.
things. But I appreciate you coming out. And the reason I asked you here today is because the model is so different than
Yeah.
what we're hearing on what we're talking about. The podcast is obviously the Roofing Mastermind podcast. And if we don't have things that are bucking the system that we have in place, then how are we really in a mastermind? And so, again, today on the episode, we had Al Lamp from Maxx Roof in Lakewood, Colorado. If you are a sales rep experienced or you are new to the industry and you are looking for a place to call home, a place that you can get paid quickly, and I'm not just saying this because this is my friend, but a genuine, like honest company that cares about humans and humanity, please reach out to Al at Maxx Roof. If you need his contact information, you can visit my website, theroofingbroker.com. That's theroofingbroker.com. And you can scroll down to my preferred vendors. I believe it's somewhere on the first page. Click on the Maxx Roof link. That'll get you through to Al. And again, Al, I truly just want to thank
Hey,
you for
thanks for
coming
having
out.
me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
being a part of this thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate everyone that tuned in to the Roofing Mastermind podcast. I hope you guys tune in next week. I will be having Hunter Adams on the show from Detach Reset Solar. We're going to be talking about a totally different side of the repair and replacement portion of a roofing system and some things that you guys can do to get those projects moving quickly. I'm Eli King. I'm everyone's favorite roofing contractor. And join us next time so we can talk roofing.